Good evening, everyone. Sorry we're a little bit late. Kind of lost track of time there. That's my fault. Watching slalom skiing on the Olympics and just totally lost track of time. But we're here, so we will get going. Let me see if I can find my share page. There it is. All right, got that shared. All right, so Mark chapter 12. We are starting it tonight, and will be verses 1 through 12. This is a pretty good one because this is the vineyard. So let's go ahead and get started on it. But there's also some really neat stuff towards the end of the verses here. So Yeshua began speaking to them in parables. A man planted a vineyard. He put a wall around it, dug a pit for the winepress, and built a tower. Then he rented it to tenant farmers and left. When harvest time came, he sent a servant to the tenants to collect his share of the crop from the vineyard. But they took him, beat him up, sent him away empty handed, so he sent another servant. This one they punched in the head and insulted. He sent another one, and him they killed. I keep thinking of The Chosen when they were performing it. Yeah, they acted it out. And so with many others. Some they beat up, others they killed. He had still one person left, a son whom he loved. In the end, he sent him to them, saying, "My son they will respect." But the tenants said to each other, "This is the heir." Okay. Get it on? This is the heir. Let's kill him, and the inheritance will be ours. So they seized him, killed him, and threw him out of the vineyard. What will the owner of the vineyard do? He will come, destroy the tenants, and give the vineyard to others. Have you read the passage in the Tanakh? Oh, wait, we won't even get to that part, so let's go ahead and talk about the vineyard. Wow. The Father sent many prophets down. And what did they do to all the prophets? What did all the religious leaders and kings do to the prophets? They killed them. They killed all the prophets. So he sent his son, Yeshua. And the religious leaders did what?
Killed him.
They killed. Of course, they played right into prophecy and everything that was supposed to be done. But if you look at it from the standpoint, they killed the heir to the throne of the Father, not knowing that, hey, he's going to resurrect in 3 days and still be there. Duh.
Surprise.
Surprise. But we see that so much. And if you got to excuse me because I just keep picturing The Chosen in my head where they acted this whole thing out. And it's just, and the Pharisees over there, wait a minute, he's talking about us.
Right.
You know? And I can just picture that when he was telling this parable, that's how they probably reacted. But yet, still, they didn't repent. Okay, now, as modern day Messianic Christians, we have to basically sharing the gospel and discipling people is taking care of the Father's vineyard. That's how we can do that. We're not the husbandman, he is. It's his vineyard. We're not the ones that are harvesting it or anything of that nature. All we're doing is sowing seeds. That's our job, is to sow the seeds so that the vineyard can flourish. He waters it, he grooms it, he prunes it, he weeds it, he does all of that. And we get to sow the seeds. That's pretty cool, isn't it? All right. Now let's go on to this next part here. It says, haven't you read the passage in the Tanakh, that's the Torah, that says, the very rock which the builders rejected has become the cornerstone? Ooh. This has come from Adonai, and in our eyes it is amazing. He's the cornerstone. He is on which everything is built. You know, a lot of people sit and say, well, you know, when John wrote, in the beginning, you know, was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And then it goes on to saying that without him nothing was made, and it's talking about Yeshua, and the Word became flesh and dwelt among men. When we get down to verse 14 in John, He's our cornerstone. He's the rock on which we stand. But when He said this to the Pharisees, in verse 12 it says they set about to arrest Him, for they recognized that He had told the parable with references to themselves, but they were afraid of the crowd, so they left Him and went away. They knew that parable of the vineyard was about them. See, right there, it says it right there. They knew that it was about them.
I think they knew everything he aimed at them was about them.
Oh yeah,
Especially the woes.
especially the woes. But this parable of the vineyard, it sounds like a good story. But what Yeshua is telling us is literally what the Father really did. He sent all these prophets down here throughout the years, and the religious leaders and kings literally killed them. I mean, look what they did to Jeremiah. Jezebel killed how many prophets?
I don't know, but she didn't
Hundreds.
get Elijah.
She did not kill Elijah. But hundreds of prophets she killed. Because there were minor prophets.
Right, but he ran from her.
Yeah, I know.
In fear, but she was.
That's a.
But she died the way she said.
Exactly.
She was gonna die.
Exactly the way she said he would. Don't touch God's anointed. That's a no-no. And she found out
And
that
God
way.
didn't admonish him for running. He sent angels to him to care for him, and he slept and he ate, and then he went back.
Then he told him, get up and go to this place where
Right.
I want you to have this woman make you some bread.
Yep.
And he ended up blessing someone who wasn't even a Jew. She was a Gentile. And that right there ties into the messianic story that the religious leaders rejected the Messiah, but we were still meant to be grafted in.
Right. But the Gentiles,
Had no clue.
they just wanted to be near him and touch him.
Right.
And be around him and listen to him.
And we weren't allowed to be because the religious leaders tried to push us out. And matter of fact, now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be anti-Semitic. No. This is about the religious leaders, not the Israelites. So let's get that straight real quick. We should be praying for the Israelites. We should be sharing the gospel with them.
Stand with Israel and always will.
Always stand with Israel. But the religious leaders of that time chose to persecute anyone who came against them because it threatened their political power and lifestyle. Let's get that right real quick. It was not the Jewish people.
No,
It was
they
not
did-
the
they-
Israelites.
They loved him. They were always around him.
Right. I mean, you read right here. I mean, right there in verse 12. They were afraid. The religious leaders were afraid of the crowd. That's why they arrested him in the middle of the night
Yeah.
and held a trial, so that the crowds weren't there. That's why they arrested him over in the garden, not around all the crowds. They were trying to be sly
Oh, yeah,
and everything else.
The crowds would have, they would have killed them.
Yes.
They would.
But when the trial went to Pilate, they got the crowd into a fever. But the crowd that they had were their crowd. It was their people they had in that crowd in the fever of crucifixion. So it was different. And once he was crucified, it was too late for them to do anything. They couldn't go after the religious leaders because they were hiding in the temple. But a lot of this points to the fact that the Father did these things in a way to try to open up the eyes of the religious leaders so that they would turn and do correctly by him in leading people to him.
And Nicodemus almost followed him
Almost.
when he asked him to.
Not until after the crucifixion.
He did later.
He did later, but he almost followed him.
Really hard.
Yeah, he fought it hard. And Joseph was a Pharisee also, and it was in Joseph's family tomb where Yeshua was laid,
Yeah.
and because he followed him also, and he's represented it as if you watch The Chosen, he's represented as Yusuf in The Chosen. It gets me. They use some of the correct Hebrew names in some of the people, and then not in the others. But it's pretty neat. But anyway, I love that he did this, that this is written this way because it literally shows us that this was always part of the plan. The Father already knew all this would happen.
Sure did.
You know, when he said in the beginning, Amen was already written. So, because he's in the beginning, he's in the end, he's in the middle, he's omnipresent, omnipotent, all knowing, he already knew. He already knew all of this would happen. That's why he sent his son. That's why he became flesh, so that we could have that perfect sacrifice, so that we as Gentiles could be grafted in through the gospel that the apostles went out and started preaching. They went to the Gentiles. You had the ones that stayed in Jerusalem and preached into the Jewish people in Jerusalem, and you have many Messianic Jewish people. But the problem in the Gentile world is we have a lot of Pharisaical Christian organizations instead of Messianic Christians. There's very few Messianic Christians in the Gentile world because we have perverted it and made it Pharisaical in a lot of the religious orders that we have. I mean, look at all the thousands of religions. And you know, people leave churches because they don't agree with how a preacher runs it, or how the church is ran, or how this is done or that done, and go and start their own church. And then the next thing you know, that church has got its rules and regulations and everything just the same. It all boils down to, who are you following? Are you following the people that were put in power to take and care for the vineyard? Or are you following the Father through the Son, who is the owner of the vineyard?
Right. It's the only way there. He is the only way.
He is the truth and the life. All right, well, I apologize for being late tonight. That is on me, my fault. I've got to start setting an alarm. We do it every Monday through Friday.
Sometimes we're late because we
Sometimes-
have to take the
yeah,
granddaughter
sometimes we're late 'cause we gotta take the
Tonight
granddaughter to
it
work.
was because I was on my phone playing a game and he was watching.
I was watching the Olympics, and
So, sorry about that.
that's all right. But we will see you all
For
tomorrow
some reason,
night.
I was thinking it was Sunday.
Yeah, it kind of got away from us too. But y'all have a blessed evening. We'll see you tomorrow. Somebody was there putting hearts and likes up.
I didn't see it.
They came in. It was Justice.
Oh, God, I seen the thing.
Yeah.
Saying we're going, I was sitting working on it too. I muted the mic.
Huh?
I muted the mic. I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, you can mute the mic.
I turned it off.
There it is. Yeah, we had 2 viewers.
Me and Justice.
Yep.
So